Suppose we wish to conduct a two-sample t-test on two independent samples. And for example, let's say we have the following information. From one sample, we determine the sample mean to be 6, the sample standard deviation to be 4.3, and the sample size to be 21. And for the second sample, we have a sample mean of 5, a sample standard deviation of 2.3, and a sample size of 30. So how can we input this information into the calculator and get results? Well, here's how. You can hit Stat, highlight Tests, and scroll until you get to two-sample t-test. We have Stats, we'll highlight Stats, and then we'll begin entering in our information. The first sample's information is entered first, then the second sample's information is entered. We wish to compare the population averages based on this information. And suppose, for this example, we believe the first population has a mean less than the second population. Now, you have to remember that the first sample corresponds to the first population, and the information in the second sample corresponds to the second population. And our idea was that the first population's average is less than the second population's average. So we'll highlight the less than option. In prior days, before the advent of technology as we know it today, pooling was done in order to handle these kinds of tests. And pooling is a process that averages the sample variances together to estimate a common variance between the two. But since advances in technology have grown, pooling is hardly ever required. And on the advice of many statisticians, it is likely that you would select no for pooling. So now we'll ask the calculator to calculate, and here we see the results. The first thing listed is the type of alternative we ran. In this case, again, we assumed that the mean of the first population was less than the mean of the second population. Then we have the test statistic, then the p-value, and then the degrees of freedom. And then we have the sample averages for each sample we have. And the degrees of freedom here would usually be rounded down to the nearest whole number, regardless of decimal portion. So we would assume the degrees of freedom to be 28. And as we scroll down, we see the additional information from the samples. Sample standard deviations listed together, sample sizes listed together in order. And this is how you can conduct a two-sample t-test on the calculator when you have statistics gathered from the samples.